Hello everyone, it's a brand new year and time for a fresh topic video, and today's subject is why isn't gaming fun anymore? This is a subject that I've seen recommended a lot on the YouTube algorithm, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about because one, it does actually line up with a number of themes here on the channel, and two, because I doubt what I have to say is really all that similar to what other videos are probably saying about the topic. So I thought it'd be fun to add my 2 cents to the conversation. And so to begin, I would say there are two answers to this question: the simple answer and the complex answer. The simple answer, I think, can be understood in terms of that famous psychology experiment where they took a bunch of rats and then they gave the rats levers, and whenever the rat would press down on the lever, the rat would get a hit of cocaine. And then they would just kind of analyze, okay, what does this do to the rat's behavior? Well, it turns out, surprise, surprise, that the rats ate less, they played less, they socialized less. Instead, what they did is they went back to that lever over and over and over and hit it and hit it and hit it, chasing the dragon, chasing that high. That addiction compelled them forward to hit that lever. And unfortunately, I think that is a pretty useful analogy to understand a lot of gamers' relationships with video games. And that's probably a little bit surprising to hear coming from a video game-centered channel such as myself. But one thing that has annoyed me over the years is that whenever it comes to sort of YouTube gamer discussion on these topics, gamers are way too willing to just kind of brush aside any sort of concern in the matter and be like, it's all good, totally fine. There's no issues at all, just spending all of your time playing video games. You're not missing out on anything. People need to understand you. They need to meet you where you are. And I've even heard people say, oh, I can't be friends with people if they're not gamers. I can't date a girl if she's not into video games. You're really limiting your pool there with that criteria. But I've seen this a lot, and yes, I've heard the other side plenty in my life as well about games are a waste of time, games are stupid, games are for people who are socially awkward and can't interact with the outer world, or they don't have anything better going on in their life. Honestly, of course, I think the real truth is more in the middle, and that is where the complex answer comes in. But before we get to the complex answer, I think there are some basic questions you should ask yourself, like, why are you playing video games? What is your motivation? What is your relationship to gaming? Because I think that's a good place to begin. How much is this my own sort of pressing the lever? And maybe I'm a little bit desensitized. Maybe I've pressed this lever so many times I'm chasing that serotonin, and maybe I'm not getting it anymore. And maybe no amount of amazing games just flooding me day in and day out are going to give me the same high as when I was hitting that lever in childhood, when I was hitting that lever as a new gamer. I think that is one aspect of this conversation that gets brushed over quite a bit. So I think that's a great place to start, is just to really ask yourself, how much does my real life behavior interact with my enjoyment of video games? So I'll use myself for example. My relationship with video games is when I come to them and I pull in that lever, I want that hit hard and I want it clean. I just want it right in the bloodstream. Right away. I don't have time and I don't have the luxury to sit and pull the lever hour after hour after hour, wading my way through these little ups and downs of, oh, okay, so it gets good about 3 hours in. You'll feel the rush about 6 hours in. I want the hard stuff. I'm an old, jaded rat, and I do not have the patience for the low-grade stuff. I need the Colombian quality. So you'll see across this channel and across my reviews, that is what I'm looking for. That is what I'm honing in on. Kind of where the concept of gameplay density comes from, where it doesn't matter to me if the game's 6 or 25 hours long. It's about how immediate is the game, how fast and hard does it hit. So that's my relationship with video games. I'm like the housewife who takes some speed and gets up and cleans, and it's kind of like an energy booster to get me going, to get me hyped up, rather than other people's relationships with gaming where it's kind of like this comfort, slow drip of morphine that just keeps you going, and it's just keeping you hanging on, and it keeps you distracted from the outside world. So yes, we're both gamers and we're both approaching the medium for mood alteration, but the overall behavior is not as similar as you would think. My risk factor with a lot of them, once I get started, I'll just binge it all night. So I'll sit down and I'll play Esperade, and then I'll get hooked in and want to get the clear. And I've had streams of this literally 16 hours straight. I'm just playing like cracked out like a crazy person, playing Esperade, trying to get that clear. be damned work tomorrow. I show up to work, I'm about to pass out all through my meetings. But, you know, that is something I have to keep in mind, and something I have to remind myself when I sit down to play some shmups and stuff. Like, okay, I do have some responsibilities in my life, versus maybe someone who uses gaming more at a low grade, but it's just sort of over time, it's just really cutting into other things you would be doing. Maybe you're able to function, maybe you're able to do your tasks, maybe you have it sort of habituated into your lifestyle, but at the same time, what is the opportunity cost? What are you missing? So that would be my first simple answer in a nutshell, which is you've probably become habituated to the act of playing video games, and with habituation, it takes more to get you off and more to get you going, but there's just only so much the medium can deliver, and at some point you're going to hit that threshold of resistance and maxed out chemical satisfaction, and then you're just kind of stuck. Everything's baseline, everything feels the same. You can't get the same high that you could before. Keep that in mind before you get into the meta-analysis of the genre. But now let's talk about the meta-analysis of the genre. So with all that being said, I do think there is actually a meta answer as far as the way games are designed now versus the way the games are designed in the past. Is much more like my example, where gamers wanted it to be fast, they wanted it to be immediate, and they wanted it to feel good and be challenging, but they didn't have a whole lot of time. They only had so much time to go to the arcade, or they even in the console experience just did not have the lifestyle that's centered around gaming like we have now. In the past, gaming was viewed as sort of this extra activity, and so games had to be more dense. They had to deliver that serotonin hit quickly and efficiently, and they didn't have to be long. It was all about packing that experience in really tightly, and that's what I call gameplay density. So that was a design principle of the past. Nowadays, games are designed for that long haul, low grade Soma model of just giving you a lot, but just giving you at this slow, steady pace, the morphine drip. That is the shift in the way game design works today. And when you're aware of this shift, it's actually incredibly obvious. Just everything to do with video games today, the RPG systems, the really drawn out level design, the really padded out game length. And this is all considered good, by the way. This is what gamers want. If you look at reviews, if the game's really expansive and long and takes you weeks and weeks to get through, that's considered value. And so the way games are designed now is they're always designed to be able to just steadily feed you. Not too much, not too fast. Don't blow the load early. Don't get them too high too quick and burn them. You want to keep that real nice morphine drip going. And in fact, there's a whole website called How Long to Beat that's totally dedicated to this style of game design, letting you know, okay, Elden Ring or whatever game's out, this is going to be a long, nice experience for you, and you're just going to be able to zone out, not think about things. And also just think about the way conversations around gaming works these days in terms of what players are looking for. If you make a game too challenging up front, that's an issue. You know, I've seen so many reviews, like when Final Vendetta first came out and it made you 1cc the game, you know, people were like, what the WTF? What is this? This is garbage. All the reviews considered this a negative. All the Steam reviews considered this a negative. Then the developers patched it and changed it. I thought it was really cool and really bold and really pushing the players, but most players don't want to be pushed. And so what does this all add up to? It adds up to games that are designed to be very accessible, very slow to get into. They plod along, they just feed in more and more content, and you just kind of get sucked into the game and you play the same game, but the game never quite ends necessarily. Even Nintendo games, Breath of the Wild, all that is going down this route of immersion, slow, easy, forget about life, forget about your troubles. Let's just relax. And so many people in my reviews, when I critique these aspects of games saying, oh, it's boring, it's plotting, they're like, well, it's relaxing. And that's what I come to gaming for. And I think that's totally fine here or there. I don't think there's anything wrong with unwinding. But I think what that ends up with in the end, ultimately, is you're gonna get burned out and you're gonna get bored and you're just not gonna feel it the same way that you used to. You're gonna hit that point because a lot of game design today is very uniform. What's funny is that's also what gamers want. And when you bring that up and say, no, this is what games should do, that's gatekeeping. And unfortunately, the market of people looking for comfort versus the market of people looking for challenge is very lopsided. And so you're going to see developers over time always shifting to the more comfortable side because it just pays the bills, essentially. People are very vocal about this as well. I won't be surprised if we get an easy mode in Dark Souls. And even among my own audience, when I talked about how lame the super easy mode of the M2 ports were, because they're just way too easy, that got a lot of kickback from people saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. So the conclusion of my second answer is that video games can add a lot of spice to your life. They can be a really cool activity to engage in and to socialize around and to experience from time to time. But if you try to replace your life with video games, you try to replace what you actually need with this synthetic comfort that video games bring you, ultimately, in the end, you are going to feel empty and bored and burned out because the artificial can only go so far. So with all that said, drink responsibly, I guess. Please like, subscribe, tell all your friends. Adios, everyone. So thank you to the $5 patrons: Another Joe, Anthony A, Aaron Solis, Bo, Ben, Latino Katanga, Blur SDG, Boghog, Borgie22, Brian Shiver, Chase Palumbo, Chato Maltese, Chris Yusufovich, Chronic Burnout 3, Climby Coyote, Cook Some Soup, Corey Mark, Dingo, Des Audio, Darren Griffin, Disco Stas Leia, DJ420 Praise It, Eric H, Fantaside, FCK, Full Set, Retro Schmupper, Hausu, J, JLab, JB RPG, John Kelly, Game Boy Guru, K, K Horse, K2, KZ, Khalil Reedy, Contain, Larridge, Malaise, Maz, Megadeth 859, Minang, Mechalin, Michael Stum, Mitchell Y, Queen Charlene, Nathaniel Davis, and Electron, Neon Dagger Games, Okla Kugels, Psycho Blizzard, Rattlecat, Raoul, Real Skeen, Riff Mason, Rolf015, Sarah, Scanline City, Seesaw SDG, 7 Overdose, Shmup Junkie, Sarah Pong, Steve Fiction, Takero Mucho, The Boot Rex, The Goddamn Milkman, The Dirty Screech, The N1, The Old Bensta, TRM, Sugumo, Twilight EX, Utakoi Root, Wabby Legs, and Utakaya. Thanks for watching.